Hey guys, so today I'm going to be going over how to identify your perfect foundation shade. This is something that's super important with any sort of makeup application or just even on a daily basis, finding it in Walgreens or CVS or even Sephora because I found going into Sephora, they have these new gadgets slash technology where it can read your skin. And I don't think that they're 100% accurate just because it's not the human eye. I think the human eye is definitely a little bit better of a judge with, undertones than a computer is. But of course, the computer system's easier for some people just because they don't understand what they're looking for. The biggest thing with undertones, the biggest thing with finding your foundation is undertone. Everybody has an undertone. The makeup of your undertone actually comes down to a little bit more of like a sciencey sort of thing. It's hemoglobin, melanin, and keratin. And those three things all together make up what your undertone is. The different types of undertones, which is what the premise of what I understand, is you can either have green undertone, you can have a pink undertone, or you can have a little bit of a bluish undertone. Now, the blue is something that I rarely come by, and a lot of people that throws people off. So I usually just focus on whether you're green, pink, yellow, or even beige. Now, beige I've found often falls under being slightly green. Good examples of that would probably be, for example, I am olive toned. The way that I find out and identify this is by looking at your underarm. And why is because this is a very, very thin part of your skin and it's very veiny. So that is how you identify exactly what the undertone is. Now, I am olive toned because I see when I look at this part of my skin is a bit of a green. Now, this lighting in here is not optimal for identifying that, and most stores are not. So if you're really wondering, oh my god, what is my undertone? The best thing you can do is walk outside in the natural sunlight and take a look at your wrist area. And even if you want to, bring someone with you to give you a second eye. It's always good to get two opinions just because, finding that shade underneath is hard and difficult to identify. Okay, so now that we're outside in the natural light, you really want to take a look at your undertone. So, as you can see, it's this natural lighting is a little overbearing, but you can see there's a big difference in the lighting from the inside light compared to now. Is where you want to look is literally right in that middle of your wrist where you see a lot of those veins, and that's where you're going to really identify what undertone you are. Some people, it's going to be very, very obvious, and with other people, it's not going to be so obvious. Now, a good way to also look is to be like, okay, am I yellow? Do I look slightly greenish yellow? Or do I look pink? I would really stay in between the green, the yellow, and the pink because those are your three key factors. Now let's go back inside and try on some makeup. Now, I am completely fresh-faced right now, and unfortunately I am having a few breakouts just because if anybody knows me, anybody that knows me knows that I'm obsessed with chocolate and candy, and I just have a special place where I go to the gym all the time, but I have to have my chocolate intake. I have no shame. It makes me happy, whatever. But unfortunately, all the skin products I use, I still get breakouts. Staying on track. I am olive skin tone. Now, since I am olive skin tone, it is almost a rarity. It's not almost a rarity. It is a rarity that when I walk into a Walgreens or I walk into Sephora, that the first time somebody looks at me, they usually identify me as being yellow. And I can get away sometimes with using a yellow foundation, but unfortunately it is not my perfect shade. I want something that almost looks slightly green, and also those that are very, very fair skinned you oftentimes have a little bit of a gray appearance. Now, if you have a little bit of a gray appearance, then you know that you're gonna have a slightly green/olive undertone. With that being said, my foundation right now is slightly lighter than what I was, what I am now, just because I relocated down south. And so it is a little bit pale, but as you can see, it's very light, but it almost looks slightly gray. This is something that I really, really think is important, just because that is going to kind of be a key trigger as to if you're going in the right direction of finding your correct shade or not. Now, those that have a slightly pink undertone, you have to be careful to look at your wrist and not on your cheeks. So many people sit in my chair and they go, I'm pink, I'm peach, I'm so pink, but oftentimes that's because they have rosacea. Now, in order to identify their exact match and not have that, that cut line where you see like, oh my God, they're wearing makeup, which is not what you want, is to always look at their neckline as well. If somebody sits in their chair and they feel uncomfortable, I don't want to reveal my arm for some reason, which I have yet to have that fully happen, but because you feel kind of sciencey when you're like, let me see your arm, But if that's the case and you really just need to do it on the fly, look at their neckline, never match their cheeks. That is the biggest mistake you can make. If you match the neckline, you're almost always going to be in the clear as to, finding the proper match of creating a flawless look where it doesn't even look like they're wearing makeup, which is what you want. Different types of like general sort of skin types that I've noticed, or undertone types that I've noticed, is usually with dark skin clients, they usually almost always have a yellowish undertone. Usually it creates the most beautiful look if you're going with a yellow type shade, especially when you're using a concealer. Use yellow based, that is going to be so beautiful. You'll oftentimes run by olive, but almost it's a rarity, so I found, especially with Asian clients. Asian, almost always yellow. Now this is, once again, if we're matching to create no sort of line here, and you'll come across some of those clients that will want a different shade completely just because that's what they're used to, just because they grew up going to CVS or Walgreens or having a makeup artist match them wrong. And so when you give them the correct sort of shade, they're alarmed because they almost feel lighter than what they normally are. That's because for me, I always match the neckline, simply because I know that I can go back in with bronzer or with like cream contour to sort of give them that more, aesthetically pleasing look where it's not just one shade. I always start light and then work dark. That is my huge thing. Also, if you have a client who's a redhead, I almost always, and like super fair skin is almost always olive. Those are the clients that sit in your chair and they almost look slightly gray. Always have them, look to the side so you can really identify that undertone. Now, with all of that being said, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what I look like before and after when I use my foundation. To start with, I'm going to go in with Maybelline Master Conceal. Now, this is in fair simply because I am very pale, and also because it has a slightly pink tone to it. Now, with concealers, it's not such a huge deal. Oftentimes with concealers, we're trying to cover that darkness, and I want a little bit of red, pinkish to to soften the dark circles under my eyes. And like I said, if they are very dark skin, concealer can make or break a look depending on the shade, so be careful of that. Okay, so now as you can see, there's no line as to where the makeup is and where my neckline is, and I did not bring it past my jawline. That is what you want. You don't want to see a big difference. You don't want to have to blend it all the way down and feel like you're wearing 1,000 layers of makeup and it gets all over your, shirts and everything. That's miserable, especially if it's a client, because it just doesn't look professional. So a few tricks that I have with foundation that I think are very important when applying is, if you love beauty blenders, I do, be sure to get them a little damp. I mean, it obviously depends on the product that you're really working with, but I definitely think it makes a big difference on how much is really on the face, because if you like that cakey look, I mean, go for it. But, if you're going for more of like a high fashion editorial runway look, then it's almost always subtly like dewy / lighter. Then go for that lighter sort of fluffy look. You want it to be slightly damp. Now, I did apply it on areas that I thought were more important than others. Another trick that I have is sorry, I'm getting a baby wipe out. Not a baby wipe, makeup wipe. So a trick that I have, if you accidentally get some in the hair or something like I did, you can see it a little bit around this area, you just go in with a wipe and sort of wipe it out. And then also with the brows, I don't think I got any in there, but also with the lips. I'm not a huge fan of leaving foundation on the lips before applying lip products, just because I think it creates unnecessary buildup. So with myself especially, I almost always wipe it off. And that way you can always go back in and touch up any spots that you might have messed up. And that way you're also creating a very natural look where you can just apply a gloss or something very easy, even chapstick, and you can go throughout your day and you look so naturally flawless and your skin looks healthy, beautiful. The next step that I would take would be contouring to give it a little bit of shade. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do that and show you guys what the end result looks like. And this is how I create my perfect shade of foundation and my perfect look for my face and my perfect undertone. I wonder how many times I just said perfect. Far too many. But if you guys have any questions, please feel free to write them underneath. Also, give this video a like if you want more tutorials that are so helpful like this, or if you find them helpful, please like them. Also, subscribe to my channel, please, and that way I can give you guys more updates onto what the do's and don'ts of the makeup world are. Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful day.